So, on today's episode, we are going to be talking about self sabotage. And I believe it's one of the biggest reasons why so many people hold themselves back from actually achieving the stuff that they want to be achieving. And what's interesting is that if we can start to just figure this one piece out, then we are going to be moving so much quicker in our lives through the things that we want to be doing. And we have to realize that there's so many different aspects to self sabotage. And on the one hand, the reason why I believe many people self sabotage is because they're so scared. They're so scared of the outcome. They're so scared of the failure or the success, ironically, of what it is that they're about to be doing. And the discomfort of the unknown is so powerful that it just holds them back from moving forward. And what we need to understand and what we need to realize is that if we do not allow ourselves to give ourselves the ability to be able to move forward, to allow ourselves to see that success, to even just think about having that success, so we're not going to be able to move forward because we're going to trip ourselves up on purpose, not consciously, but subconsciously, because we're trying to protect ourselves. And we have to realize that it's on us to be able to do it. And it manifests in many different ways. So on the one hand, it could be something physical that we do. So I'll tell you a story about that, where somebody did something that really they self-sabotage themselves because their ego got the best of them. On the other hand, we might talk ourselves out, or we might give ourselves excuses even of why things didn't work out. And what we have to realize is that we have to take things into our own hands. We have to take responsibility for our own lives and do the things that we want to be doing. Because if we don't do that, things are just going to happen in our lives, and we're just going to sort of go downstream with everything because that's how everything's supposed to be going. And the few people that are able to grip their lives together and to put themselves together, to take the action, and even though they're still going to fail, to be able to continuously move forward, those are the individuals who are going to stand out just because they're doing something different. And most successful people nowadays talk about how easy it is to become successful. And the people who are not successful, and this was me and still is me a little bit, where it's like, I have so much more I can be doing. And if it's so easy, so then why am I not there? And we have to realize that it also does take time, but recognizing that in order to become successful, it's doing certain things. It's really just doing the basics. It's like if you're in sales, if you're not making 100 calls a day, so then there's going to be a reason why you're not going to be successful. But I guarantee you, if you're making 100 calls a day, you're going to be successful, just a matter of time. And most people don't think about that. They don't believe it. And they try for a day or 2 days or 3 days, and then they're like, it's not working. This is not for me. And what we have to realize is that it's constantly putting ourselves out there, constantly staying on the horse. And what we have to try to do is, how can we stay on the horse as long as possible? And for many people, financially, they need to figure themselves out because they can't just live on no money. So they might have to get a job. So therefore, they have to work overtime to work on whatever it is that they want to be working on. And if we can start to recognize that about ourselves, then we have the ability to be able to move forward and to really get things going. And what's interesting about self-sabotage is that I used to work for an apartment complex, and I used to manage the building. It was a 369 unit building. And there was one Monday morning, I was coming into the parking lot, and I made a left into the parking lot, and there were a bunch of people outside. And as I was going through the parking lot, I saw Andy, my maintenance guy, like my top technician, who like literally ran the building, who's my right-hand man, walking away from the parking lot with his chest puffed up, his chin up high. He's like 6'4", 6'5", massive man. And I see him walking away, and I look to the other side. I look to the left, and I see Sean on the floor picking up what was left of his glasses and his blood coming down his face. I honestly didn't see what happened, but I knew this was not going to be good. As I made my way through this through this battlefield right now, I pulled into my parking spot. Andy saw me. And it was like that time where, like you catch a kid with like their hand inside the cookie jar, like that's what the feeling was. Like literally his hand was inside the cookie jar, and I just walked in. And he runs over to me. He's like, boss, what's going to happen? And I said, Andy, I don't know what's going to happen. And to be honest, I had no idea what was going to, I had no idea what happened, but I knew something was going on. So I had to put on my poker face as if like I have to play it cool, because I have to speak to HR. I'm going to have to speak to my boss, and I'm going to have to get back to you. He's like, I'm going to get fired. What's going to be? I'm like, I don't know. I have to let you know. And I ran to my office. Before I get into my office, though, I scouted out to see like who was there, which tenants I knew that I was close with, that I can actually call and see what's going on. So I saw like 2 or 3 tenants, and I called them up and was like, what just happened? And they were saying that they were hanging out with Sean, and Andy walked over, said a few words, punched him in the face. Sean fell to the floor, and then he punched him again, and then he walked away. And of course, that's when I walked in. So I called my boss. I called Alex, and I said, Alex, I don't know what happened, but apparently Andy punched Sean, and everyone's upset. and everyone's scared and nobody knows what's going on. She's like, hey, let me speak to HR. I speak to HR. HR is like, you have to get everybody's side. So you got to get like somebody who witnessed it. You got to get Andy's side. You got to get Sean's side. So I had to go to Andy, ask him what happened. Got to go to Sean, which was very uncomfortable. Saying, Sean, why did you get punched in the face? And then I had to go, I already got the testimony from one of the other tenants. And unfortunately, all the stories lined up. This is exactly what it was like. And I told HR, I'm like, this is what happened. Andy walked over to Sean. He was upset. He said a few words to him and punched him in the face. And then he fell to the floor and he punched him again. HR is like, okay, hold on. I'll give you a call back soon. So Andy's like waiting in my office. He doesn't know what to do. Sean's like fuming. He's upset. He doesn't want to go to the hospital, even though he probably should go to the hospital. And I'm waiting there. But on the one hand, like, of course, Andy punched Sean. But we also have to figure out who Sean was. You see, Sean, the building that I managed was a 55 and older community. So it was everybody in the building had to be 55 or older. There were certain people, though, who were able to have their support or have a nurse or somebody like that in the building. And Sean's mother used to live in the building, and Sean was her aide. And Sean used to live in her apartment building. And a couple of months prior to this situation, Sean's mother unfortunately passed away. But Sean didn't leave the building. And not just that, he wasn't paying rent. So Sean was a tenant who was squatting in the apartments, and we couldn't do anything about it. We couldn't get him out. We tried working with him. When I came into the apartment building, he was already there. I was trying to play good cop, really just trying to get a relationship with him just so we can work something out. And it wasn't just like he was like doing his own thing, staying in his apartment. Like Sean was like this little fly around the wall, especially for Andy. And they've gotten in arguments before. Sean was selling drugs in the building. Like he was doing like everything that you don't want a squatter to be doing. And there's nothing we could do. So we tried to figure out what we could do. And then finally, 2 weeks prior to this event that took place, Sean was we made a deal with him and we actually got him out of the building. We changed his door, everything. We got him out and it was great. However, Sean would still come visit his buddies or maybe, do some deals with them, whatever it was. One day though, Andy gets this car and he sees his new pickup truck was keyed and he didn't know who did it. Sean doesn't live in the building anymore. However, there were a few tenants who saw Sean go over to Andy's car and key his car when he was there one day. So Andy, who was already livid over the fact that Sean keyed his car, when he had the chance, went over to Sean, said to Sean, why did you key my car? And then punch him in the face. So we have this whole situation going on. I'm freaking out because I need Andy for everything in this. And of course, as this is all going on, I get a call from one of our other maintenance technicians. Boss, one of the pipes in the boiler room bursted. We need to come down here ASAP. So Andy and I run down the stairs. No time for the elevator. We run down the stairs. We walk into the boiler room. And the boiler room is like the bottom of, I would say, of a cruise ship. Like you get into like the bottom of a cruise ship and there's just pipes everywhere. It's this massive room with like there's steam and there's noises and like everything is going on. But today it was like the bottom of the Titanic. And there was already like 2 inches of water on the floor in there. And remember, this is a massive, massive building. It's 369 units with commercial. Like this is like, it is gigantic. I have no idea what to do. And of course, the script was made, Andy comes with this like 75-pound wrench, runs over to this one area of the boiler room and ends up shutting the water. And all that did to me was reassured to me how important Andy was in having this and in running this building. I honestly had no idea what was going to happen to him. And if we lost him, then it would be a massive loss, not just for me, but for everybody there, because Andy was the building. He ran the building. And we went back to our office and I finally get a call back from HR. And HR calls me back and Susie's on the phone and she's like, Bennett, is Andy there? I'm like, yeah. She's like, I can bring him over. So put it on speakerphone. And she said, unfortunately, Andy, because of this situation, you're no longer an employee of the company and we're going to have to let you go. And Andy takes his keys and he puts them on my desk. He starts to talk to Susan like, is there anything I could do? Maybe I could just get fined or just not work for a couple of weeks. Like I can't not do this. And what we have to realize is that this building that Andy was working at is everything he knew. For 20 plus years, he's been working there. Since a teenager, he's been working in this building. He knew this building from the back of his hand. He was like the quote unquote son to so many of these tenants because he would really help them out. He lived with them as if like he was a child, helping them. And now it was being stripped away from him because of a situation where he sort of self-sabotaged himself. He wasn't able to control his emotions. And we got up after that phone call, and we gave each other like a massive hug, because like we knew like how much we each needed each other. And it was a really sad day for me. I felt like I lost like a really close friend. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because for so many of us, we go through life and there's certain situations that we have. And on the one hand, we have the ability to make decisions that are going to help us move forward. But then we also have decisions in our lives that are going to really hurt us and keep us back. And what we need to try to figure out is, what are the things that are going to help us move the needle just a little bit forward? Because if we're not going to be doing that, if we're not going to be able to take advantage of all these different pieces, there are going to be things that are going to happen. We're going to trip ourselves up. And sometimes they might be as big as punching somebody in the face. Hopefully you're not punching anybody in the face. On the other hand, it might be as small as just procrastinating because you're scared. And then you wake up 20, 30 years later to think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I wasted this time. It finally clicked that I need to start taking action. I finally had enough pressure. I finally found the way that I need to be able to move forward. And what we need to realize and what we need to understand is that if we're not doing this for ourselves, if we're not able to take action when it comes to the success that we want, then we're not going to be able to really see all it is that we want to be seeing. And we're not going to be able to move forward. So when it comes to ourselves and our own personal development and our own growth, we have to realize, what is it that we're going through? Who is it that we're becoming? What is my ego controlling, and what am I controlling? Because those are two different things. And for so many of us, we're being so led by our egos. And at the end of the day, I think our egos mean well. They want us to do well. They want to protect us. But what we do need to understand is that they're not the one who's supposed to be controlling the bus. We're the ones who are supposed to be in control, and we're the ones who are supposed to allow ourselves to be able to move forward, to take advantage of whatever it is that we might be taking advantage of. So you need to ask yourself, what is it that I'm doing? How am I procrastinating? How am I self-sabotaging myself to not be able to move forward? Am I scared to succeed? Am I scared to fail? And what are the steps that I need to be doing? And like I said earlier, a lot of it comes down to just uncertainty and a lack of clarity. And if what we can start to do is get that clarity, speak to people, start to make a process. So one of the things that I started working on is my online community for coaches, thought leaders, and experts, to help them be able to spread their message and to spread their impact. And one of the things that for me was very overwhelming is that I knew that I needed to be able to focus on what steps I needed to do. Because right now, from beginning to end, there's 1,000 steps I need to take. And for me, that's very overwhelming when I look at all 1,000 steps. But when I could just focus in on a little bit of something and to say to myself, hey, you know what? Let me just focus in on this one piece over here. Let me just this is it. I'm not going to focus on the next steps. I'll deal with that when it comes. But right now, I'm just going to focus on here. I'm going to be a student. I'm going to learn. Then all that happens is that I'm not as scared to take the steps, because it's only these 5 steps as opposed to 1,000. And the other 995 steps can wait, because they're not important right now. So ask yourself, if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are procrastinating, if you're scared to take that next step, what is that you can do? But we also have to realize that it's risky to take the action, but it's also risky not to take the action. And I think a lot of people don't put that part of the equation. And if we can start to say to ourselves, hey, you know what? I know that this thing is scary. I know that I want to do X, Y, and Z. I know, if I put myself out there, I could get hurt financially or emotionally, or God forbid, even physically. But guess what? If I don't do this, what's the alternative? What's going to happen to me otherwise? And I think a lot of people don't think about that. You're going to be coasting. You're going to be, still doing your W-2. You're not going to have enough money to be able to pay your bills. You're not going to have the relationships that you want. You're not going to be able to be, have the health style that you want. And these are all things that we need to start to figure out for ourselves. And if we don't understand that, if we don't see that about ourselves, then why do you think we're going to become successful? Why do you think we're going to be able to see the success that we want? And I think that is something that comes out so importantly, that if we don't do these things, if we don't focus on ourselves, if we don't work within the realm of us being able to accomplish whatever it is we want to be accomplishing, the alternative is that we're not going to be able to move forward. We're not going to be able to see that success. And we know we all have that ability. The fact that we're thinking about and dreaming about these certain lifestyles that we want, we probably see other people who have different parts of them. And we tell ourselves, like, why is it not possible for me? Why might I not be able to do it? And what we need to recognize is that, you know what, maybe I am. Maybe I can. And what I really need to do is just start to shift my mindset a little bit, shift my perspective a little bit, take a little action today, and hopefully that will get me to the next places. So make sure you're not self-sabotaging yourself. Ask yourself why you're self-sabotaging yourself. Get really clear. And like always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And we'll see everybody on the next one. Peace out.